G'day guys and welcome back to AdosTheGreat YouTube channel. So guys, in today's video I'll be going through how I went in round 10 and then I'll be giving you my round 11 tips. Now unfortunately I had recorded this already and the file corrupted, so my tips are already going to be locked in, but we'll just talk about them and go over margins and anytime try scorers. Before we jump into this one though guys, if you could leave a like and subscribe, it would mean the absolute world to me. Without you guys I'd be nothing, so if you could hit that sub button to help the growth of the channel, I would really appreciate it. I'm a pretty nice guy, so I feel like just for that you should be able to do it. It takes 2 seconds, not long at all. Just hit that red button. Alright, let's get into it. So round 10 results. I went 5 from 8. I started the week pretty poor. I backed in the Eels to beat the Dolphins. Obviously, the Dolphins got the job done there. They have just been getting it done this year. There's obviously been games where they've been disappointing, but all in all, I think they've had a pretty good season. Some of their losses have just been unlucky. Parramatta at home, I thought they'd get the job done. Credit to the Dolphins that they were too good. So, unfortunately a tip wrong, but it was a good game of football, so I enjoyed that. All right, Knights, Titans. Obviously, I took the Knights there. McDonald Jones Stadium. I thought they'd get the job done. No, I believe the Titans haven't won there since either 2019 or 2016, I think it was. So I was like, look, I really don't think the Titans win this one. So I'm backing in the Knights. Knights got out to like a 20-0 lead. Titans came back. They got the job done. Credit to them. All right, next up, I was like, I tell you what, man. I thought I was going to go 0-3 because as much as I love my Rabbitohs, the amount of injuries we've got, everything was going against us. We had next to nobody tipping us. I tipped us because I always tip my team. I always have belief that we can get the job done. But at the same time, I was very nervous about this game as I thought the Broncos were just going to run away with it. Like the Titans-Knights game, the Broncos got out to a 14-0 lead and we came back with 22 unanswered points in the second half on the back of a Latrell Mitchell masterclass. So credit to him. Great win there for the Rabbitohs. All right, next up, I backed in the Doggies to beat the Raiders. That one came through as well. Another come from behind win. Raiders are up 20-0. The Bulldogs came back 32 unanswered points in the second half to get the job done. Really good win and a tip right for me. We then tipped the Warriors to beat the Dragons, and again another sort of comeback, but luckily Luke Metcalf stepped up once again. He's just becoming the GOAT of the 2024-25 season. Incredible win there for the Warriors. I backed them in by 8. They won by 1. Really, really good game of footy. I was thoroughly entertained. Unfortunately, the Dragons don't get it done, but that's a tip right. Then we move on to the last game of Saturday, Cowboys and Panthers. Very interesting one. I backed in the Cowboys up there in North Queensland. Panthers, obviously coming off a good win last week. Nathan Cleary, I thought was going to put on a bit of a masterclass in this one, but it was more Blaze Talangi that really set the Panthers, standards sort of higher than we expected, or than I expected. The Panthers got out to like 12-point leads and the Cowboys had come back and it had just go like that all night. Credit to the Cowboys. A draw is still a great effort against a team like the Panthers. They're nearly full strength now, Penrith. So I think the Cowboys should be very proud of that effort. And look, I think it's a bit like a participation award when you get the tip for the bye. But you know what? At the end of the day, it's not, and we take that. All right, I then tipped the Storm to beat the Tigers. I thought the Storm would get a convincing win. I thought maybe like a 32-12 win, not a 64-0 one. That was insane. Ryan Pappenhausen scored 36 of their 64 points, which is just incredible. Storm, I think Craig Bellamy would have had them up and ready for this game. I really, really do, because of how poor they finished that Raiders game. So credit to Storm. I still can't believe that scoreline because the Tigers have actually improved this year. So they'd be disappointed with that loss, to be fair. To wrap up the weekend, I took the Seagulls to beat the Sharks. The Sharks got out to a 14-0 lead. Manly came back to tie it 14-all, and the Sharks ran away with it in the second half. So good win there for the Sharkies. Unfortunately, it is another tip wrong for me, but it is what it is. We move on, and my round 11 tips are as stated on screen. So Knights, Eels. This one was difficult for me. I generally don't know who wins this game. At McDonald Jones Stadium, the Knights should get the job done, but I thought the same thing about the Titans, about them against the Titans. So I've backed in the Knights. I'm going to say Newcastle win this one 1-12, and I'm going with Dane Gagai to score anytime there for Newcastle. In the second of the Friday games, we've got the Bulldogs taking on the Roosters. This should be a very entertaining game of football, in my honest opinion. I do think the Roosters will keep it close for the majority of this game, and then I think the Bulldogs will run away with it late in this game. So I do think the Dogs win this one by a 13-plus margin. I'm going to go with Viliami Kickout to score anytime. He scored one this week, which was incredible because I have him in my Super Coach team as a bit of a pod play, so I'm very happy he scored this week. But yeah, I think Doggies win. I think it'll be on the lower end of a 13-plus win. All right, on to the Dolphins against the Warriors. Both actually have a 2-2 record. So the Dolphins have won 2 of the 4 games they've played. Warriors have won 2 of the 4 games they've played. I believe Warriors have won both games at home, and so have the Dolphins. Which, you'd probably think, why are you tipping the Warriors then? Because I just think this is a different Warriors side. They look incredible. They are loving the close games. They're getting the job done in those close games. Luke Metcalf is just incredible this year. He is so good to watch. So it's crazy to think the Warriors are second. It's insane. But credit to them. I didn't tip them to start the year. I've started tipping them now. The last 2 or 3 weeks, I've got them right. So I'm hoping we continue that trend. I'm backing in the Warriors. I think it'll be a 1-12 margin. I do think the Dolphins at home will keep it relatively close. And I'm going to go Dallin Watene-Zelezniak to score anytime. All right, the second of the Saturday games, we've got the North Queensland Cowboys taking on the Manly Warringah Sea Eagles. That game will be in North Queensland once again. The Cowboys at home. This game, I do think generally could go either way, but it should realistically be a Cowboys win. So I am going to back the Cowboys in here. I do think they get the job done 1-12. I don't think it'll be a 13-plus margin. And I'm going to say that Robert Derby scores anytime for the Cowboys. All right, in the last of the Saturday games, we've got the Sharkies against the Storm. Storm tend to play quite well against the Sharkies, and we know the Sharks do struggle against those top-tier squads. So I think after that game against the Tigers, Storm are going to go into this game with a hell of a lot of confidence. It's normally a pretty entertaining game between these two sides, somewhat rivals, I guess you could say. Look, I do think Storm win this one. I think it'll be on a higher end of a 1-12 margin, so like a 10-12 sort of scoreline there. Like margin-wise, I'm talking. I think like Storm probably win that one like 24-12 or something. So I'm going to back in Storm there, 1-12, and I'm going to say Xavier Coates scores anytime for Melbourne. Then we've got the first of the Sunday games, the Brisbane Broncos taking on the St. George Illawarra Dragons. Obviously, Suncorp Stadium. Sunday afternoon footy for the Broncos. Very different, but should be a good game of football. I do think this one will be close to start with, a bit like the Dogs-Roosters game. But I think the Broncos will finally start to find that form that they've been missing for a large portion of this season, or these last few weeks anyway. I do think they'll finally find some form against St. George. I'm going to say Broncos win on a lower end of a 13-plus margin. So I'm going to say Broncos by maybe 14 to 16 points. I think they'll be too good there. And I'm going to go Selwyn Cobbo to score anytime. He had a pretty poor game last week against Souths, made a few errors there. So I do think he bounces back and has a good game. All right, we've got the Raiders and the Titans. You just don't know what you're going to get from the Titans. And the Raiders, I think Ricky, a bit like Bellamy, is going to have the Raiders up and about for this game. I think the Raiders win this. I think it'll be a fairly high-scoring game. I'm thinking like a 40 to 26 to 24 margin there. I think Huddy Young scores any time in this one. I'd be very surprised if he doesn't cross for a try. And yeah, Raiders obviously 13 plus. I think they'll be too good for the Titans. To wrap up the weekend, we've got the West Tigers taking on my South Sydney Rabbitohs. Tigers seem to be the favourites in this one, with 53% of people tipping them. Obviously, the Rabbitohs are notorious for not playing all that well against the Tigers, but I do think the confidence they're going to take from that win over the Broncos and how well Latrell played, if Latrell can take that level of footy and put it into this game, I think the Rabbitohs can run away with it. But to be safe, I am going to tip Souths 1-12, and I am going to go Latrell Mitchell to score anytime against the Tigers. I actually reckon a bit of a smoky pick here. He scores 2. But they are my tips for round 11, guys. We're going to go over them one more time. Before we do, guys, hit that like button, hit that sub button. It takes 2 seconds. I'm a good guy, so you might want to do that. I guarantee you won't regret it. All right, so obviously we've got the Knights, Bulldogs, Warriors, Cowboys, Storm, Broncos, Raiders, and South Sydney. Let me know your tips down below in the comments, guys. Thank you all so much for tuning in. And as always, my friends, I will see you in the next one. Thanks, guys.